Hello, and we are live here on the Monster Report here on Facebook and on YouTube. Glad to have you with us, and hopefully our audio is coming through and our live feed's going through just fine. It's hard for me to always find out while I'm sitting my somewhat renovated, going to be renovated office here at home. But this will all get a lot more cleaner as we go along. But again, we're glad to have you here. We've got an interesting discussion to have today, so feel free to join in on the chat. Before I bring in my guests, like, subscribe, all of those good things, leave a comment, and we'll try and get back with you on the comments. Maybe your comment will even make it on the show here, so I will be ready in the chat to bring up your comments. And again, follow us on all those social media platforms while I bring in our special guest today in our topics. So we've got Everett GodzillaFanFreaks. He's a veteran to the show. Everett, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today, Nick. How are you doing?
Awesome. Your room is looking a lot.
It's coming together.
A lot fuller, and your lighting is got that. It's got that changing colors as you go. I hope you don't sleep in that room.
No, I don't sleep in here.
Okay. Because that light would get annoying. And for this first time on the Monster Report, we've got another Nicholas Latimer, Goji fan 1998. Nicholas, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Well,
yeah. Do you go by Nick or Nicholas?
You could call me Nick.
All right. Just don't call me late for the stream, right?
Right.
And Nick and I met at G-Fest years ago, and I know that we've talked about having you on, and now we're finally here. It's you have arrived on the Monster Report as a guest, so awesome. And you've got a YouTube channel as well, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so search for Goji Fan 1998 on YouTube, is that right?
That's right.
All right, excellent. So we've got a YouTube panel here today to talk. We've got a few cool subjects. So if you think about like the 1976 through the 1980s, we had our remake of King Kong that was made in 76, and we had at some point a script that was written for Resurrection of Godzilla, which is kind of a new subject for me. It's not one I've done a lot of research in, but Nick's going to bring us up to speed with that and kind of tell us a little about what he's read into that. There was an article that you shared me, so we'll kind of talk about that when we get to that point. And but Everett and I have always talked about Kong 76, and it even had a recent Blu-ray re-release, which is beautiful. Yes, awesome. There it is. And so it's interesting to see how, like, the tokusatsu, the suitimation, guys in suits, playing giant monsters, was even still used in a more modern, let's say, American, a monster film. And so to see that going, it's kind of flip-flop from Godzilla. King Kong went from a model figure in stop motion animation and to create the illusion that it was a large monster on screen. And then he went to suits, and then he's back to CGI these days, but so is everything. So goes the world. But to see Rick Baker in the Kong suit and the amazing work that was done, De Laurentiis company, and the music by John Barry, it's just a well-rounded film. So that's going to be our first topic. So with that in mind, tell me maybe your first, if you remember how far back your first exposure to Kong 76, Everett, if you'd go first, if you remember.
Oh boy, it's one of those memories that's barely on there, but it's still there. And I remember it watching, I think we watched it one night when it was on TV, me and my dad. And I remembered, though, almost every time I would catch it on TV, I would miss like the first, whenever it would be on, I feel like we would always miss like the first quarter of the film. So then we would always catch it around the time to where they're arriving on the island and whatnot, which is, of course, when all the juiciness begins anyway with the film. But
That's right.
I mean, just lots of good memories. I think it was the first Kong film standalone outside of King Kong versus Godzilla, the original, that I have seen. I don't think I saw the original black and white until I was older, but
Mhm.
so I do know that Kong 76 was my very first standalone Kong movie, and really happy to have the release here from Scream Factory. They did an awesome job with the transfers. It's nice to see the TV edit cut again that was split into two parts.
Mhm.
Um, it's just really nice to see all that. They did an amazing job on the artwork for the cover, and again, it's just one of those films that it doesn't necessarily get a lot of enough love, and I feel like it just gets more hated on, which is nice that when you and me brought up the topic of Kong 76, we just discussed how much we love the film and everything that we like about it. So it's nice to discuss films that maybe aren't well received by the whole fandom, but as long as you can have a good discussion with it with your friends, it's one of those movies that you could really get into because
That's
it's
right.
got so much going on.
So it's a mixed bag of a lot of conversations can be had about this film, and it's a
Yeah.
kind of long film for even its time, I'd say.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't even know how long that extended release or is the television one would have been probably the longest release of it. So is that in
Yeah.
the neighborhood of 2.5 hours, or I don't know?
I think it's over 3.
Is it over three? Goodness,
I
it's the
think
Lord of the
so.
Rings. It's Peter Jackson's Kong. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
And what I always enjoyed about it though too is that it is more of that modern take on Kong. Like it's a remake, but at the same time it has enough of its own twists that it makes it feel original in a way. You know,
yes.
you got not a filmmaker going there and trying to make a movie. You have an oil company trying to drill for oil. And then you have the whole, instead of the Empire State Building, he climbs the World Trade Center. And then
Mhm.
instead of old school airplanes, we have modernized helicopters with miniguns on them and stuff like that. So it's like, it's a remake, but with enough modern twists that I just really enjoy it. I enjoy the practical effects too. I
Mhm.
think that's the Godzilla fan in me that really enjoys this film, is that I do like the practical man in suit effects, and they just work really well with any type of giant monster movie if it's filmed correctly.
Mhm.
And not to say that I don't enjoy the stop motion of the original. I love the stop motion stuff too. And but then of course, you know, you get into CGI and that's just the new norm for everything these days. So
Remember that oil company thing you just mentioned there, and its difference from that. I want to come back to you on a point there and get Nick's
okay.
take on this. But yeah, that's one of the things that you just triggered something for me. So this is going to be good. Nick, how much of this Kong 76? Love it or hate it? Tell us about it.
I just really enjoyed the movie when I first saw it, when I didn't even know it was exist.
Hmm. Yeah. So have you seen it like way back when you were a kid?
Well, I kind of seen it since right after I saw King Kong Lives that I didn't even know the 76 was starred.
Hmm. Yeah. So to me, you're a kid, but to me, both of you guys are kids because I'm the old guy here on the panel. But so compared to the other Kong films, do you kind of find it on the high end of things, or is there one that you kind of find that you watch more often, Nick?
I kind of found it more entertainment to watch all the other previous films I know.
Okay, as far as Kong though, which one do you watch the most? You think like Skull Island, or do you watch more the Peter Jackson King Kong?
Oh, I kind of do enjoy Peter Jackson one. That was my first Kong movie I first saw when I was a kid in theater.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's also an epically long one, but very entertaining. And in my opinion, my humble opinion, I like the Peter Jackson one better than Skull Island. But that's just me. That's I'll take the hate. I like that one better. it it had a lot of cool tributes to the original, so and it was set in that time period, so it's just overall a great film. But yes, very long. Just, I mean, goodness gracious, I forget how long it takes before they get to the island, even. Um,
It's like an
but
hour segment almost.
yeah, So yeah. Now, Nick, growing up, yeah, I don't know if you were born prior to 9/11. You were 1998, right? Duh.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
born in 1998.
You would have been a little kid though in 9/11, so you don't really have kind of the memory of the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers. You've seen news clips and documentaries, I'm sure, about it and things. But how do you react when you saw Kong climbing them and jumping from one to the other?
Well, I kind of like the way he jumps right the moment after he climb up.
Yeah, it's a little impractical, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
really is.
there's a lot of distance between the towers. A lot of people don't realize that it's it just didn't make any sense. But it's like it's a film, and it's like we've got to have Kong jump from one side to the other, right? And then the Empire State Building being not so much the icon of New York City during that time. That was a new building in the 1970s, so new set of buildings, pair of buildings, and so it made the New York skyline iconic in that sort of way. So the Empire State Building used to be that. I think it was probably the tallest building in the 1930s, if I had to guess, or at least in New York it was. So that's why you would have him, of course, climb the iconic one. But getting back to that oil company, the idea of this greedy, slimy company that's going out there and saying we're prospecting for oil, and the reason I guess the Skull Island is covered by this fog bank is because I guess it's supposed to be rich in that oil. Tell me what you thought about the idea of switching that over from the filmmaker to the oil company as to the reason why they were going there.
Me?
Yeah, Everett, sure.
Well, I like the modern Switch. Again, it's a remake, but it has its own twists to it, so that makes it's almost like its own film in a way. And because I mean, let's put it this way: how many more times can Kong get remade, and you just know what the story is? It's like I feel like movies today can benefit from modern twists and not just be a flat out, hey, here's a remake on the same old story that you guys know 1,000 times over. But so I like the change of it. But then of course I still like the twist within the film itself, to where it's like, oh, they have to pretty much say no to the oil because it's not ready yet. And then he just has the idea, well, let's just bring Kong back and use him as a publicity stunt. And so it kind of ends up coming full circle in the end. But still, you just have that there in the back of your head that this was all originally for oil and gasoline and whatnot in the end, versus like a Broadway style film or whatever it is that they end up doing in the other Kong films.
Yeah. Before we get to my comment about that, Lee Powers, Kong 76 is awesome. So we got a fan of the film, especially when he tears the giant snake's head apart.
Yeah.
So that snake, that was out of nowhere. That was cool actually to see Kong fighting at least one other monster in this film.
Yeah, even if it was just a giant snake, but
we didn't get the dinosaurs.
It was.
I think we lost Everett, or he's frozen in time. Anyways, until Everett comes back here, Nick and I can talk a little about that. It's interesting. So you've seen the Nick the '05 Kong. You're fond of it. So that idea of Jack Black taking a crew full of people with a camera to go to this exotic island to see the natives and whatever else. Do you think anyone these days would care to go to an island to film something there, to physically go there?
Well,
like, do they need to? Sorry.
Great. Well, it's kind of a little bit great story based off the original story, and to share a personality like ways.
See, I look at it this way: like they wanted to go there to say they did, but like these days, do they need to really go to an island like that?
Well, that Jack Black's character wanted to go so that he doesn't want to get arrested away.
Well, that's true too. He had his own little like issues with the law and finances and things like that. But during those times, they couldn't do the effects that we have right now to put them in a place. These days, we just put you in front of a green screen and we can get you on that island. Everett, he's back with us. Sorry.
Sorry about that. I don't know why my internet just took a dump for a second.
It's all good. It just happens. But yeah, we were talking about like that the difference between the two iterations of Kong. They're going for oil prospecting, and in the old days they were going to film a scene or whatever, a movie on an exotic island. For the fact that they did go there, they could have faked it, they could have built a set or whatever, but then it would look that way. In those days, the story behind it is that we actually went to this exotic island. We went to an uncharted island out there. Well, in the 1970s, that doesn't quite really make sense because they can just build a studio. And then now, of course, we were saying it's like CGI. We can put you anywhere and make it look exactly like that place. But those days, that's what they would do. In the 1970s, it wasn't really practical to say this is a film crew, but maybe what would be the motivation to get them there to this island? Maybe there's a natural resource. So kind of an interesting way that they modernized it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Everett, I'm coming through, right? Just making sure.
Yeah, you're coming through fine.
Okay.
Do I sound okay?
You sound great. Yes.
Awesome.
I just wanted to make sure I'm coming through. So, yeah, so you got the oil company and, they got a punt on that. In the original, they had to punt on their film, but we got a spectacle anyways. We've got our PR stunt. We got Kong to come across. Now, thinking about the Monster Kong himself, compared to stop motion of the original, and then getting into the suitimation, I'll tell you this one thing that I love about the original is everything was groundbreaking. It was so new. Los O'Brien, all of them that had come together to make the visual effects for that film was huge in the 1930s, in the Depression when there wasn't enough money going around. And then saying, okay, we're going to make this movie where somehow it's going to pay itself back. And, it's a beautiful movie when you watch it. Yeah, you can look past some of the fact that it's an old effect. We don't use really that kind of effect anymore. So young people might look at it and say, oh, that's cheesy. But I kind of find this interesting. I have such a love for it. And then I show it to young people and they're like, they can't get over the fact that it's in black and white. Do you ever get that?
Every now and then, I don't know if it's just the people I've surrounded myself with, but I don't get too many people who get turned off from the black and white films. But I can understand where you're coming from with that, because it can be hard for a lot of people today to sit through a black and white movie, even if it is a sci-fi flick or not.
Nick's a young guy. Does the black and white bother you from the original or Son of Kong?
No, it did not bother me. I just love black and white ways.
That's right. Nothing wrong with black and white. It's what they had during the time. Lee's back in the chat talking about the rabbit fur. Yes, in the stop motion model. That documentary on the original Kong that has Peter Jackson's crew remaking a scene, an unmade scene or an unreleased or whatever, deleted scene from the original, using the stop motion effects. The what did they call that sequence? It was the spider pit, I think, sequence they called it.
Yeah.
And so that's
Yes.
cool. Yeah, you've seen it then, that documentary or that scene.
I saw it when it's shown on YouTube.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but yet the putting that together using what they had, building the armatures, building the rabbit fur. And I even remember them talking about, they put the rabbit fur on the outside, and of course their hands are manipulating it every single shot. And so I think one of the executives or whoever saw a test run of the footage, and it's like, it's so real that his fur is actually blowing in the wind. And the visual effects people are looking at each other. It's like, yeah, that's actually a mistake. That's every time we manipulate the puppet, every time we manipulate the figure, our fingers get into the fur and rustle it up a little bit. And that's all that is. But you know what? Sure, it adds to the realism. So that's what's cool about that original. So many stories to tell. But back to 76, so many cool things that they did in that. I think this one, did add a lot of seriousness. Let's talk about the music. That music, some people might say, yeah, it drones. It's not very exciting and all of that. I don't know. Either one of you guys, tell me what your reaction is to the music.
I love the soundtrack. It's dynamic is the word I like to use with it. It just has so many different scores for certain parts in the film that are going on, and that when you put the scenes and the music together for whatever it is they're doing, it clicks and it works, and it's just an amazing soundtrack. I love the soundtrack for the 76 film.
I wish I had it here. I actually found the vinyl album of that John Barry score. Again, I'm renovating, so things are not all in the same room. I would have been able to just grab it, but it sounds beautiful, and it's got an insert in there that's a publicity still, and cool stuff from behind the scenes. So that was like a dollar flea market find. But
nice.
Yeah. So the music, Nick, does it particularly stick out to you, or is there any scene that you remember where you liked the music or didn't like the music?
I very well like the music, and I got a favorite music of mine where Khan walks in the city before he climbed the World Trade Center building. Was this very cool, interesting music.
It was, yeah. And you would almost think big kaiju movie, some action and all of that. You would think action paced, big bombastic drums and high paced kind of music going on, and it wasn't that. It was this melodic feel that put you into kind of the horror of what was going on, but also a bit of sympathy for him. And so there was so much that music just fit with the tone of the film. And I'm also a big fan of John Barry. He's done a lot of great work in the 70s and 80s. And he working with the De Laurentiis film, producers there. I love Dune. That was another classic that the De Laurentiis crew. I know they're the producers, but they do have some say in the creative process. But John Barry score. Love it. Lee Powers is telling me he's our chat. He's our awesome chatter tonight. So yeah, he's got it on the vinyl album too. Good catch,
Nice.
Lee. So yeah, that's one for the collection. They need a re-release since kind of vinyl is coming back. I mean, there's whoops, knock something over. So yeah, I mean, a lot of these younger music listeners are starting to collect vinyl again. Of course, now it's much more expensive. You can find the classic ones sometimes at yard sales and flea markets. So yeah, that music really works well in it. Let's talk about Rick Baker in the Kong suit. Let's start with Nick. Did you realize it was a suit, or did you think it was always kind of the large robotic Kong, or what do you think?
Well, I kind of think that it was perfect for the guy in the suit was Rick Baker. And for my opinion, Rick did a great job playing as Khan in the suit.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's some other scene where Khan was actually animatronic when he was on the cage.
Exactly. For the few seconds.
Yeah, until later was not later be unused after that.
And of course, they had some of the hand, that was reaching into the shots, and the arm, certain parts of that were the robot, version, which was very cool. I mean, to see that animatronics way back before Jurassic Park, did it with the T-Rex and Stan Winston Studios. So yeah, tell me about the visual effects of Kong, Everett. How'd they strike you?
Again, just being a fan of Suitmation and everything already, I think it worked, really well. I love the costume. I love the way that the suit looks. Even as far as the animatronic goes, I wish they utilized it more than, like you said, the few seconds that it was on camera. They spent so much money on that prop
I know.
and barely used it. But I think it was for the better, because even in the shots that it is in, even that it's a spectacle to behold, it moves too slow. And I think that's probably where they're like, this isn't going to be believable if we use it more. So they used it in the final shots there, to where he breaks out of the cage for the most part. And but beyond that, the whole use of the Kong suit itself, I just love. I think it's great. I even like it when they break the fourth wall a little bit, and when they get through the gate and everything like that. Jeff Bridges' character, Jack, he goes and he says, "Who do you think went through there? Some guy in an ape suit?" Yeah. As a matter of fact.
Little wink and a nod to the audience.
Yep.
Yeah, that suit looks great. I even love the facial expressions, because a lot of ape suits, you didn't get some of that kind of going on. Everything from the eyebrows to the lips curling in certain ways.
Yeah.
They just got it. And then I go, forward just a little bit to the animatronic Godzilla, 1985 or 84, and seeing how the animatronics really did some cool stuff with that Cybot. A lot of people, they love it and they hate it. The Cybot. I love some of the close-ups with the lip curling. I think that's great. Yeah, and being able to see the teeth and the tongue, and even the brush marks on the on the inside of the mouth that you can see. Whatever, I love it. So, but yeah, animatronics is very difficult. But yeah, the face and being able to see those expressions, because you definitely get a lot more out of Kong, a character out of Kong. And in some ways, and maybe tell me I'm wrong, I think that suit did do a lot of expression that was, between him fighting, between him escaping, between him being enraged, between him being kind of in love with the female character and all that. I think that acting of the animatronic face, anyways, and Rick Baker's physical acting, I actually thought that did a lot more than the Peter Jackson one. Whereas I think the Peter Jackson one was good. Do like it. I think maybe it tried a little too hard at times, and it was like, get it? And I'm like, well, you could be more subtle. I do get it. He's in love with her. He wants to kill that monster. He wants to escape. He's scared. And I thought sometimes that those facial expressions, if you were to see like a real ape, they're not always maybe that expressive. And I thought they did some subtlety with the Rick Baker one. But again, I'm not above criticism. So guys, if you think I'm wrong, whatever, feel free to chime in on that one.
I agree with you there. It does get a lot of different expressions of happiness, anger, even sadness. You got all kinds of different facial expressions going on with the animatronics in the face. And like you said before, this is probably one of the best ape suits that we have seen in media over the recent years, because even before that, I think we can all agree on that even the King Kong versus Godzilla suit, that Kong suit really wasn't that great. Kong from King Kong Escapes was not really that great of a monkey suit. Then you have movies like The Mighty Peking Man, Ape. The list goes on with all those giant knockoff Kong films that it's like, those are pretty bad suits in comparison.
You've seen Conga, guys.
Yeah,
Conga.
Conga. Yep.
Yeah, that one. That ape had one expression, and that was about it. Yeah, and yeah, so many of them. I guess in some ways, Planet of the Apes did a lot of great things. The original and the remakes that happened later, being able to say, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. So we need the actors inside those suits to be able to, behind the mask, act through them. So they were able to really pull that off without looking silly, really, without looking cheap. And this one definitely. And another Dune reference, I'll say, Carlo Rambaldi, the creature effects designer for this film, also had time on Dune for the creature effects in that. So, a classic kind of practical effects creature creator. Unfortunately, as I understand it from stories, that he and Rick Baker did not get along very well, but Rick Baker's career did take off after this. So, history has a way of proving itself. Rick did have a lot of great ideas, and he put himself literally into that role, and got to give a lot of credit to the guy for what he did. And but yeah, I'm gonna throw a curveball at you guys. Did you ever, both of you, either one of you guys, see the 1989 film The Wizard?
Oh,
Nintendo.
It's vaguely there in my memory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's when Nintendo was in its heyday. It's got Fred Savage in it, and Christian Slater, and it's all about them trying to get to the Nintendo competition at Universal Studios in California. And they end up in the Kong ride, having a scene where Kong is tearing apart the train that's going across. You're the rider, and the train's going by, and it's a pretty cool scene, actually. And I imagine, the animatronics that they had for that, came maybe from the actual suit. I don't know. Everett, I think we lost you again. You seem very stunned by what I just said. So I think that's what's going on. So, but Nick, you've never seen that film either, have you?
I heard about it from a angry video game nerd.
Okay, yeah. Check it out sometime. It's a fun watch, actually, but it's got a nostalgia for me because it's the original Nintendo days. There's Lee again. 76 facial expressions fit for the film and for the time really well as did Peter Jackson's film from when it came out. Yeah, I'd agree with that. There's kind of an expectation that we have during the time we're watching it. The expectations during that time, I won't say lower or higher, it's just what do we expect to see. When we're seeing a film these days, we really do expect that kind of CGI look to it. We got Everett back. I
apologize.
It's okay. I thought I stunned you with my brilliance. We were talking about The Wizard a little bit, but yeah, if you get the chance to see that. Did you get the Universal Studios bit that I talked about?
No, I totally missed that. I don't know why my internet is not deciding to cooperate this evening.
It happens only during the live streams. They end up at Universal Studios on the Kong ride, on the train that's going across as Kong is trying to get at the train. And so there's a little reference to that. And I always kind of thought maybe they used the animatronic Kong, since they've spent so many millions of dollars, Universal did. Let's at least put it in a ride. So someone in the chat, maybe Lee even knows, did they end up using the animatronics from that huge giant robot Kong for the ride? Because I would have, got to get our money out of this.
Yeah, for real. You would think that they would utilize it for that ride, which unfortunately I never got to see that ride in action or anything. But from other videos that I've seen of it, people actually say that Kong's breath actually smelled like bananas, supposedly.
Really?
Yeah.
And I don't think it exists anymore at all, does it?
I don't think so at all.
Yeah, they might have a new version of it, maybe in the Florida Universal Studios. I don't know. I haven't been there yet. But anyways, we're going to switch gears here in a few. We're going to wrap up on Kong and talk some Godzilla. But as far as Kong 76, its legacy, kind of how has it held up over the years? I'll give my opinion first, just thinking of the fact that it's a bit on the long side, of course, and there's a lot about it that has I guess some politics of the side of the time. It was a product of its time. There is a lot of in the script, a lot of subtleties, a lot of what I want to say, some facial expressions and body language that is trying to communicate with the audience without just telling you what these people's intentions are. And I think that between Jeff Bridges, Jessica Lange, and I'm trying to think of the oil executives, Charles Grodin's character, all of them, they have a lot of unspoken kind of communication between all of them that kind of happens as they're going. And I think that that's something we've lost over the course. We kind of like in our scripts these days, get spoon-fed the information constantly. And I think sometimes if you add some of those subtleties in your script, that to me that makes a more well-rounded film. So I know why this film might age as a result of that is the script writing. Other things I think people can look past the visual effects, whatever. It's still entertaining, in my opinion. But start with Nick. Does it hold up to today's standards? Has it got some rewatchability to it?
Yeah.
You'd rewatch this, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I definitely might, so I could give another chance to take another look.
Okay, gotcha. Everett, how does it hold up?
Well, for me, it holds up great. I can throw it on almost any time if I'm in the mood for a good Kong movie, and especially with the release by Scream Factory. I love watching the TV cut. I love watching the theatrical cut. They're both just great. Even when my wife was on, we kind of went down a trip of memory lane, but we didn't necessarily do it in order. And she's never really seen any of the Kong movies, so we actually ended up starting with the Peter Jackson Kong, and then from that one we went to all the way in the 1933 with the original. And then she saw the 76 one last. But she preferred the Peter Jackson one over the other ones. And I can understand, why. And of course, when we did watch the Peter Jackson one, we watched the extended cut. So he's even well over 3 hours.
That's right.
Just because if you go with any type of giant monster film, if there's an extended cut out there, you usually throw on that one.
Yeah, just like the Lord of the Rings, to me, it's like I got to see the extended. I don't think I've watched the theatrical releases in forever, just because
it's been a long time.
Well, and I'll throw in another couple of Easter eggs in there as I bring another comment in from Lee. The ride's face was different than the one in 76. Yeah, I'd agree. I think because they are closer to it in the ride, and especially I saw it in the Wizard, you're really close to the face at times. So I'm sure, they probably did a changeover in that. But maybe some of the use the underworkings, maybe the arms, maybe things like that, maybe the body. Who knows what they ended up using? Someone probably will find an article that proves all this or disproves all this. But another little Easter egg, a couple of actors that are kind of in the background of this. I don't know if either of you were Star Trek fans growing up, but Renee Albajano, he's the actor who plays the scientist who shows, Grodin's character that the oil isn't ready, and he's drinking heavily, and he's like, yeah, it's be ready in 10,000 years or something. I don't know. And it's like, that's a young Odo from Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. If you ever get the chance to see that, another great actor who I just feel, maybe didn't get his time in the spotlight except for on Deep Space Nine. Another one, maybe Everett, this one, John Agar. That name ring a bell?
Little bit.
Okay, he goes way back. He's the mayor of New York.
Okay.
Okay. The actor who plays him, John Agar, goes back to Revenge of the Creature in the 1950s. The mole people, if you see some of the Mystery Science theaters, they're always calling out John Agar and his tremendous acting experience from the 1950s and all that. So yeah, he's been in some 1950s sci-fi monster, B movies of the time. So he got to, as an older man, end up in the remake of Kong. So I think that was maybe just a little Easter egg the production company or Universal wanted to throw in there. But yeah, he was never in the original Kong or anything, but been in plenty of monster movies. So yeah, and there's plenty of other little cameos and things like that happen throughout this, little Easter eggs. But yeah, the film holds up great. Love it. Definitely worth a rewatch. And we're down to 20 minutes, but I'm going to give Nick. Are you ready, Nick? Are you up to bat on the Resurrection of Godzilla?
Oh, yes, I'm super ready.
All right. Tell me about this. If I came from not knowing anything about this, which I actually didn't until you sent me the article, kind of start me from the beginning. What is the Resurrection of Godzilla?
It was part for a revival of the Godzilla franchise since way back in started 1970s. Tomoyuki Tanaka wrote his own proposal story. In 1980, wrote 47 pages.
Okay. So obviously this is after Terra Godzilla, but before the Return of Godzilla. Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on. You're good to go.
All right. And according to the story for that 1980 proposal, where started right after Godzilla awakened from a nuclear dumping in the Pacific and drawn to Japan to search for more nuclear energy, and he fought an ancient shape-shifting god monster known as Bakken, the original name for Bakken.
Okay.
And this Bakken has 3 forms that get transformed, and as long as it will contact and correct the right elements.
Mm-hmm.
To start as a sacred monkey beast form for dry land. And when he was in the water, transformed to water god beast form.
Mm. And
then when he was in the sky, he transformed to dragon beast form.
Very cool.
But apparently this idea was dropped by Toho because it would be too risky to produce such a big budget movie, so while Godzilla's name was still attached in the story. But there was according from John LeMay's book, The Mutant Edition of the Lost Film Books, said the proposed director was going to be as Ishiro Honda, along with Akira Ifukube going to proposal to be composed the movie.
All right.
And but after the 1980 version of Resurrection Godzilla was scrapped, another version of the same name was written in '83. That was written by Akira Morao and the screenplay writer who later wrote The Return of Godzilla, Inichi Nakahara, collaboration to write a different story. It makes very, very close to Tanaka's historic proposal and very different in a few ways. And each time Bakken changed form, it heals his wounded. And when it ran into Godzilla, finding it couldn't defeat him with any single form. So it transformed into the whole entire combination with 3 forms to become Demon Beast form. But after defeating Godzilla, Bakken soon found out it can no longer change form and no longer to heal itself, which allowed Godzilla to revive and destroy him with his atomic breath, who later died in the sea. And so the idea was never happened, and it ended up becoming The Return of Godzilla was the elements of the idea was end up enthroned. And there was also about a powerful weapon that he used against Godzilla called Raconium, a nuclear fission device that was used to attack Godzilla. At first, the professor who was working on it did not want to use it, similar like Dr. Serizawa's Storyway. And I kind of wish that one, the Resurrection Godzilla, should have made. That'll be one great movie if that should have made.
So go ahead and finish your thoughts.
And to make me imagine if Akihiko Harada should be in that movie before he might be passed. It might be awesome if we might see Harada again before that. And that's all I have to say for that one, because I got too many things in my mind.
Hmm. Well, you're right. Hirata did pass away before the Return of Godzilla was filmed. He was going to be the scientist, wasn't he? He was going to be Hayashida, I think.
Yes, yes, that's him.
Yeah, and unfortunately died kind of suddenly, I think, during that time. So we ended up with another great actor whose name escapes me at the moment, but I know he passed away not too long ago as well. Throw out the name if anyone remembers it, but
I know that guy's name.
oh, go ahead.
That actor who took over Harada was Yosuke Nakatsuki.
Yosuke Natsuki. Okay, yes, from Ghidra, the three-headed monster. Yes, and Dogora. So,
And a little fun fact, he was briefly dating with Linda Miller when she first saw him.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
According to trivia from John LeMay's book about King Kong escapes.
Wow. Now that I didn't know. That's that is definitely out of left field. So the
Yeah.
resurrection of Godzilla would have been somewhere in between, the Return of Godzilla and Terror Mechagodzilla. So this is kind of a way to bring him back. The if you called it Backen or Bagan creature, I've heard a lot of people want to bring in that creature who made his appearance, I think, in some video game concepts of Godzilla or some video game releases of Godzilla. Was this that same creature, that Bagan?
No, this is totally different because both Bakken and Boggin are all separation name.
Okay.
And Super Godzilla Gaming has a lot of information about that guy in Kaiju Profile from Wikizilla. That's where I learned a lot of pieces.
Gotcha. So we're pronouncing it with a K, Bakan, in this case. And he seems to me, he or she, it, seems to me like a mythological monster, not necessarily like a mistake of science, if you were to say it that way.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something from the ancient times, this idea of like supernatural gods and magic and things like that. Everett, you got the chance to look through that that article on Toho Kingdom when I sent you. Mind exploding. I mean, what do you say?
Yeah, pretty much. It was very overwhelming to definitely read all of that. A lot to process, and it. I can understand why Toho scrapped it. I feel like it would have been too much thrown at the screen for Godzilla's return, essentially. So I think they went definitely a better route with just the Return of Godzilla the way it is, solo film. Maybe this is still something that, who knows, maybe somebody will pick it up down in the near future and they'll throw their own twists into it and maybe it'll get approved. Who knows? But definitely a lot to process, that's for sure.
I always wonder what Godzilla would have looked like in this. Would he have had a lot from the look of the '84 suit? Or would they have had something completely different? Would they have had something that resembled more of the Showa series? Who knows? Any insight on that, Nick?
And I have a little bit of fact to tell. Well, based on the proposal story that I found, that they added a man-eating plant and the sea louse concept was meant to be a giant tick before they go with a sea louse instead.
Okay, so some of that made it into the '84 film.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. So they didn't scrap everything from it. They picked it apart. Just like anything else, if they've got something, they've got something scripted. I find that they movie production companies, they don't like to scrap everything if they can use something from it, even a concept in the script, or even a set piece or whatever. It's like, you got to reuse it. It's got to, we paid some money for it. Let's at least try to get something out of it. Even music, they'll do that too. It's like, if we can get a little bit more from this. Milk this for all it's worth. But yeah, I really do wonder if that Godzilla would have more of the horrific kind of face, the more menacing kind of look to him. What do you guys think?
Just from what you're reading, it's hard to say what Godzilla's design would have looked like. I would have hoped personally that he would have kept kind of that menacing look from the '84 film.
Yeah, because if they're gonna bring him back, he's got to be this product of science gone bad, and he's got to be the vengeance that the Earth, throws back at us. So yeah, yay to the '84 suit, right? Yeah, love it. But there he is. Yeah. What's up?
And this figure is the reissue NECA figure.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I've got that one too. And there's that. I also have a soft spot for the Monster of Monsters Nintendo video game, which they made that NECA of that, which uses there they are recycling things. They use that same mold of the '84 one to make that NECA one, just repainted it. So yeah, there's a lot that could have gone on in the '80s, but unfortunately we only ended up with 2 Godzilla films during that time. And interesting that the plant concept was in there too. That didn't get scrapped. Maybe not so much man eating, but sort of. And but yeah, this film, when you said Resurrection of Godzilla, the first thing what I thought in my head was what could have been the original title, or at least the American release title for Shin Godzilla. At one point, I remember them saying, "Well, this is called Godzilla Resurrection or Resurgence," which is Godzilla Resurgence, but none of us call it that. I mean, do you guys? It's Shin Godzilla to me.
Yeah, it's Shin Godzilla to me too.
Yeah, same for me too.
Yeah, I don't know if that ever just really caught on with people, that title. It's like, we'll call it what the Japanese call it, and we'll call, a lot of times I'll say Godzilla '84, Godzilla '85, or Return of Godzilla. Sometimes you got to be specific with it. But a dream team could have been in on this film, and it could have been maybe the last hurrah for that dream team. Akira Fukabe, Akihiko Hirata, Ishiro Honda, Tanaka, all of these guys. I wonder, who knows who they could have gotten as the Godzilla suit actor. If they wanted to get one of the later '70s suit actors, or if they wanted to bring in Satsuma, that would have been interesting. Was there any insight on who was going to play Godzilla?
Well, I believe it could be Kambashiro Satsuma going to be playing as Godzilla in that project, if that should have made.
And that would have made sense. That really would have. Yeah, he was already familiar with suits. Not Godzilla yet, but he was familiar.
And Gaia.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so he was already familiar with the suitimation and all that. Though I do kind of remember the original '84 suit was built for someone else, and then Satsuma stepped into it. So maybe whoever that actor was going to be possibly could have been in the suit. Who knows? Again, it didn't get made, and nothing was shot. But at least a treatment was put together, which gets us, to that point of like what we're doing here, a discussion, speculation. It's almost like fan fiction, right?
Yeah.
That's what I look at it like. And people have still to this day wanted to see Bagad in some sort of way. I don't know why there's so much love for this monster that was never in a film, but whatever, I guess. I guess until we see him, we won't know how cool he is. But for now, whatever. I still want to see Varan and Godzilla either team up or duke it out. I still want to see Varan get his moment in the spotlight beyond the one film he's in.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So do you think even, let's say they wanted to dust off this script, do you think a script like this would work today for today's audiences?
I think that it might be very super great movie. Depends on the audience can love it.
Yeah, you think they would today? Yeah, as opposed to maybe in the 1980s. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
you weren't around. How do you know you weren't around then? But and Everett sort of. You're late '80s or you early '90s?
I'm early 90s.
Okay, whatever. But what you do know, today's audiences with the big stories that we've got from Marvel and every other uh, fiction fantasy film that's being made with complex, convoluted stories, do you think this film would hold up if it were filmed today? Oh, what are you doing, Nick? You're sabotaging this, aren't you?
No.
He's
I've been always daydreaming. Sorry.
It's okay, but I'm thinking Nick, he's quiet. He's hacking Everett's machine, his internet access, and he's like manipulating somehow. Yeah, always the smiling one. So we'll get Everett back and get his thoughts on that if he comes back in the next 4 or 5 minutes. We're almost done with our broadcast. But before we get going, GodziFan 1998, kind of tell me a little about the YouTube channel you've got. What kind of things do you like to talk about on there?
Well, I kind of like to do unboxing, reviews, shout outs, and much more, whatever I do, as long as I don't want to get copyrighted in my channel.
Isn't that a ongoing problem with YouTube? We got Everett back, so we're gonna finish up here, so don't worry.
Okay.
I already accused GodziFan 98 here of hacking your internet access. And I don't do that. I don't do that, apparently. No.
And I'm also giving shout outs here because we're all YouTubers. We're not in competition with each other. We're all friends. And I say subscribe to both these guys' channels. GodziFan 1998. He's got the chance to talk to you a little about his channel, some box days, some fun facts about Godzilla. I saw some, like you had some top 10 videos on there too. Those are always fun. And GodzillaFanFreaks on YouTube. Subscribe to him. Check things out. I know you've got some exciting things coming up as soon as you get that office, that man cave you've got set up. So any hints that you can throw us our way of what may be coming up in the near future?
Definitely once I get everything finished and strung with LED lights, you think it would be done by the way it looks, which a good portion of it is, but I still need a few more shelves to light up before that's ready for a collection video. I recently just got the Jiris figure from Seismic Toys, so that review should be coming out within the next week. Definitely going to try to get that done soon, which is awesome figure. Really happy that you persuaded me, you and Chris, to pick that up. Very happy with it. And just overall, after that, I think I'm going to be diving into the Motu figure reviews with some of the Origins figures and whatnot. So finally going to be getting some Masters of the Universe content pumped out on the channel. So there's a lot in store, that's for sure, but I am very excited to do the whole collection man cave video for sure.
Awesome.
I am so excited to do that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see all that. So with that in mind, thank you so much, both of you gentlemen, for your time. You've been very generous with it. And again, I want to tell everyone, check these guys out on YouTube. Really quickly, I know, Everett, you're on Instagram, Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah, and GodziFan. Do you have any other social outlets other than YouTube?
I have Instagram and Twitter as well.
Okay, follow these guys. Just look for GodziFan 1998, right?
Yep.
Yep. And we had GodziFan 1993. The Chris Cooper's on last week, so I guess I call him maybe the original GodziFan. I don't know. He might have been the original one. So we'll get Lee in here before we sign off. To me, all the unmade projects, ideas for an extended Godzilla universe in my brain anyway. Awesome stream. Thank you, Lee, for participating in the chat. I'm glad we have had an entertaining show for you. We didn't have too many viewers here, but this ends up on YouTube so people can watch it afterwards. So again, subscribe to these guys' channels, subscribe to the Monster Report. And again, I appreciate you guys for being on here. And we will catch you on another episode of the Monster Report. Have a good one, gentlemen.
See ya.
See yo.